Hey guys, this is going to be my full review on the Shadow GT880S. Now this is made from a Chinese company called Shadow Tech, and their brand of dash cameras is also known as Shadow Recorder. So this is a pretty interesting camera because it's really cheap and affordable, but seems pretty high quality, and it might catch the eye of a lot of G1W owners. What's really cool about this is it's similar to the G1W. It has a 2.7-inch screen, has several buttons on the back. It looks sort of like a digital camera, but it has a lot of features that mostly high-end cameras would have. For example, it has built-in GPS, and it has built-in onboard diagnostics for your vehicle. So instead of plugging into your cigarette jack or hardwired into your fuse box, it actually comes with something that plugs into your vehicle's onboard diagnostics port. So I'll show you that in the unboxing portion. So this was sent to me for review by gearbest.com, and they gave me a coupon code, so if you are interested in this camera by the end of this video, I'll provide a link down below with a coupon code, and I believe it comes to like $110 or something only. And that's pretty cool because this camera has 1080p 30 frames a second, which is pretty standard, but since it connects to the OBD port, it can actually use a parking mode that uses the motion sensor or G sensor, which is typically more of a high-end camera feature. So there you can see the camera. I'm going to go through the other stuff real quick first. Here's a manual. It's in Chinese and English. I'm not going to go through it as usual, but it is pretty useful. Now here's the power cord that plugs into your OBD port. It does actually just use mini USB. It comes with two different mounts actually. One's a suction cup mount, and another one is a 3M style adhesive mount, which is pretty nice because you could put this in your main car, and then if you ever are using a secondary car or a rental, you can use the suction cup in that car. So I like that they include two different mounts. Here's a warranty card. So it comes with a CD with a viewing software. This is just a micro SD card reader. And then an HDMI cable if you want to use the video out feature. I personally have never found any use for video out cables, but it's nice that it's included. So the actual camera feels a lot nicer than I thought. I'm glad GearBest actually recommended this for a review because it seems like a lot higher quality than I was expecting. Now I'm not a big fan of the form factor. It's sort of like a G1W, but even taller with a GPS on the top. But it's got some pretty standard buttons. Up and down, menu, mode, a power and record button. So I'm going to quickly show what it looks like with the suction cup mount. What you got to do is take the screw all the way off, or the cap, and attach the main base to it, and then screw it back up to tighten it. It feels a lot sturdier than I was expecting. I think Shadow has really shown that they're trying to make a higher quality product than a lot of the generic Chinese dash cameras. So there's where the mini USB power cord plugs into. There's a power and record button on the top. Like I said, there's a mode, a menu button, HDMI output, and a memory card slot on the side. That's basically about it. So the easiest way I found to show the menu is actually have it connected to my car's OBD port. Then I'm just going to quickly do a walkthrough. Now I've been using so many cameras lately, I do fumble around with the buttons a few times here. I keep hitting the wrong buttons. but the top right on the back is the menu button. Then you use the record button to select. So there's two menus similar to a lot of other Chinese cameras. The main menu has a lot of the most important features like the resolution, loop recording length, wide dynamic range, motion sensor, plate number. Generally I just use US dash as the plate if I can. So you can set the default record audio to on or off. There's a date stamp, G sensor with high, medium, low, a parking monitor which allows you to record at really low frame rate to save memory card space but still record while your car is off and parked. Now, a fatigue driving warning system which will beep at you or alert you after a certain amount of time. I personally didn't use it. I never had a chance to drive that long. A speed warning system which is similar, but it warns you when you pass a certain speed. And even though I have it set to miles per hour, when I tried the speed warning system it seemed to still alert me at kilometers or kilometers an hour. The parking mode on or off. Clear OBD trouble code will clear your car's messages if you have something wrong with your car. Now the different screensavers, we have a GPS screensaver, an OBD screensaver, or backlight, which just means the backlight turns off after a certain amount of time. So that was the first menu. So here we have a little bit more in-depth settings a lot of people probably won't mess with, but we have exposure, white balance, which is pretty cool because they have different settings for different types of lighting. The date and time settings, the beep sound if you want that on or off, language, comes with quite a few different languages, which is always nice. TV mode, which will be NTSC if you're in the US or Canada, 60 Hz also. Now image rotation, I believe that is if you want the camera upside down, it'll automatically rotate the picture. And the last few things are the typical format default settings and the version. So that's pretty much a full walkthrough of the menu. Now you can actually view your videos or files also by switching the mode. So I personally don't ever think this is that useful to me. I would much rather just have a smartphone with a micro SD card and just pop that into my phone. I typically prefer cameras that don't even have screens, but as long as it's a small screen I can put up with it also. So here you can see the OBD screensaver shows a couple different specs of your car while you're driving, like the battery voltage or your coolant temperature. It's a little bit of a novelty feature, but it is pretty cool. It's the first camera I've used that's had this. So besides this, we have the compass screensaver, which will show your speed, your compass, and GPS location. I thought that was pretty cool too, but if you want you can just set it so it turns the screen off after a minute also. So this is what it looks like outside of my car. The blue sky, it actually is a little hard to see it, but the white letters on the front are a little too visible for my liking. And compared to a G1W, it's a little bit bigger, but more so it's actually quite a bit taller with a GPS right there. Other than that though, they're very similar. They both have 4 buttons on the back with a button on the top right like a digital camera. They are both sort of pretty visible in the front, but with how many features you get with a GT880S, it might actually be worth it having a little more visible or bigger camera. So now I'm going to show a couple different clips from this camera. Just going to start out with a regular daylight shot. So this is obviously pretty easy lighting. It's mid-morning, it's blue skies. I'd say it looks pretty good. It is 15 megabits per second, but I feel like the image sensor is probably not up to par with a lot of other cameras, but it also is really cheap. Like I said, with that coupon code, it's about $110 with free shipping, and for $110 when you're getting GPS, the OBD function, the parking mode, it actually seems like quite a good deal to me. You just have to put up with the fact that the video quality is just pretty standard, and also the form factor isn't the greatest out there. It's pretty visible in your front windshield. In the city, with a lot of movement going around and cars going different directions and pedestrians around you, it does pretty well. The 15 megabits per second definitely help, even though it doesn't have the best image sensor or lens. The high bitrate definitely helps it. I believe the G1W has a 12 megabit per second bitrate, so from last I checked, this does have a higher bitrate than the G1W. So some cameras, like the Blackview cameras, will often have a lower bitrate but a better image sensor and lens. The trade-off to that is the fact that in a lot of fast motion, cameras like the Blackviews will have trouble keeping a clear picture. So even though this camera doesn't have the best detail, when it does get into some fast motion or a lot of stuff is going on, it will be able to hold on to that detail a lot better. So in this clip you'll actually see the rain starts to come down really hard, and it does a pretty good job of staying pretty clear, and it doesn't get all pixelated like some other cameras would get with lower bit rates. Now where this camera does seem to have trouble is at night. At night it doesn't seem to pick up quite a lot of detail. It does seem to be pretty bright, which did surprise me, but it looks really grainy. It's definitely not the worst camera I've seen at night, but it does leave a lot to be desired. At the very least, you're going to get good enough, bright enough footage that if you get into a car accident, you might not be able to read a license plate, but you're still going to be able to clearly see what happened in the accident, because the brightness, like I said, is pretty good. If you see my other video reviews, you'll see a lot of cameras struggle really hard in some darker roads like this. I'm starting to get into a brighter city now, but my headlights aren't that bright, and they often don't pick up in a lot of cheaper cameras, so that's why I was pleasantly surprised with how bright it looks in this video. Now I did test the parking mode, and it worked okay, but with the motion sensor basically all it did was constantly record, because where I park there's always so much motion, so I didn't really want to include any of that footage. But there is some viewing software that comes with this. It's nothing special. It basically lets you view the clip and see where you are with the GPS data and your speed. That's about it. The only setting in the settings menu is actually miles per hour or kilometers an hour. It actually crashed on me twice while trying to use it the first time, but it is nice that it comes with something in case someone doesn't know how to use any other third-party programs. So overall, based on the price, I would say I'm impressed with this camera. It has a lot of great features like the parking mode, the onboard vehicle diagnostics, the built-in GPS, and it has pretty decent standard 1080p 30 frames per second video at 15 megabits per second. So for $110, I'd say this is a pretty good deal, especially if you're looking at something like a G1W and don't mind the form factor like this. I would highly consider looking at spending just a little bit more. 40 or 50 bucks seems like a lot if you're paying only 60 for a G1W, but if you get into a car accident and your deductible is $500, that $40 to $50 extra doesn't seem like much anymore. I really like that it plugs into the OBD port because you don't have to wire it into your fuse box, so you don't have to worry about connecting it to the wrong type of fuse if you're not familiar with fuses, and you don't have to use your 12 volt cigarette port, so that's pretty cool, and I hope more cameras in the future use this. Overall, I'm pretty impressed with Shadow Tech. I feel like they're offering something of pretty high quality for a very affordable price. Again, this was sent to me for review by GearBest.com, and like I said, I'll provide a link down below if you're interested in purchasing this. There's a coupon code, and it brings it down to $110, and they offer free shipping at that price. So like I said, to me it's a pretty great deal. If you're interested in this camera, I would highly recommend it. So if you like this video or any of my other videos, I'd appreciate it if you hit like and subscribe. And as usual, drive safe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.